I got a bucket of parts. Let's make something.
The plan. There is none. Anyways, the point here, I've gone through the box. There's enough here. We've got replacement rims that aren't like blown out like these are. I think there may have been an adapter and that's why they're drilled out. But there's like 4 good tires here and 4 good rims. So we're going to get all this stuff out of the way. We've got later gen Red Cat Everest 10 axles. So these are going to work really good. I've rocked these on a bunch of builds before, and I've always been really impressed. And with these being the layer ones, they've got basically a higher knuckle design for the actual bar. So this is going to work out really good. The wheelbase is going to be a little tricky because of how this is put together, but honestly, it should be a little easier to make work, unlike my scale Tonka, because this I can get away with a longer wheelbase with how this dump bed is. So that's gonna help us a little bit. There's a whole bunch of random leaks. There's enough for like an ESC, a motor in here, a random metal transmission. So I have no idea who made this. It is really, really cool, but we're kind of gonna piece together whatever we find. Along with, I know we have 4 of these shocks, so gonna figure all that out. There's enough random like links and stuff in here that I can come up with a 4 link in the front and back, get the shocks mocked up, probably piece together a steering servo out of like the bag of random servo bits I've got, and we're gonna rock it from there. We're probably gonna clip to more cool stuff now. All right. Currently, I've taken a hammer, tapped on all the little tabs that hold like this bed to the frame of the Tonka. We might drill some holes or just like weld some spots to it to make it a little stronger. But currently, we're just going to like zip a nice little radius up to here. These factory holes from Tonka are too big. They're made for basically the dump bed version of this frame. And I've just moved like a little bit ahead and drilled in the same spot for where we're going to basically cut the frame out of the way, as I said, to clear the shock that's going to be bolted on. We might end up using this to make like a drop down skid plate to then put our lower links on the front and back. I did that backwards, but you get the point. It'll be something we recycle, and I've got a few ideas for maybe reusing this, but in the simplest way, we're just going to trim off all the busted stuff from this being a cement mixer and make a really cool flatbed. Progress. Anyhow, I have cleaned up and chamfered the edges of the frame because I realized like it might be around a kid, and I don't want a lawsuit for the fact that like someone can get cut from the rough cuts of that. So that's nicely cleaned up. I have the shocks kind of bolted on, figuring out the upper mount for the links for the 4 link in the back, and this is one of the last parts I have of a XTM Mammoth. I used the side panels that were part of this to make like a blue monster truck club buster thing. It turned out really awesome, but I've had this thing around forever. I can take this to my vise over there, straighten this up, make it actually go vertical, and this will work as a nice little bolt-in spacer to reinforce the frame as a drop-down for possibly the lower links I'll drill into this, and possibly mount the transmission into it as well. Just kind of recycling in a cool way, because this is definitely thick enough gauge to match about the Tonka frame and be really strong. Alright, we have the unit of a metal transmission and little like motor mount thing put together, and I started putting together, I'm actually going to be able to use these metal drive shafts I found in the box. So it's going to work out pretty good, and just to keep things simplified, I'm going to use the underside of where the flatbed's at and drill a few holes, and I can actually use what's right on top of the motor here and get a pretty solid mount, and then drill a few more spots and use like a drop down like spacer to tie into the transmission and hold it like secure, and then we'll just be welding on or possibly bolting on that brace still. Alright, fair amount of updates, and chew. I have got this bent into place. All the hardware for the rear upper links are tightened down, tying this in, and I've got one hole drilled for this side and need to drill the hole for that side, and that'll be the links for the front to bolt in. Gotta make all the lower ones, and I found out nothing I've got that was in the box kind of matched each other in terms of longer links, so that's gonna be kind of fun to figure out. I'm gonna work through that. The rear drive shaft should work with this. I'm going to have to drill out this one because the set screw got destroyed, was destroyed. But I've roughly got these tires in on there. Someone drilled out and destroyed the rim, so still have to fix that. But for the most part, this is almost done in the back, and then we'll work on the front. This is going to have a killer stance once we're, done. And this is how we cut threads. And I have some parts in my mouth because I didn't want to waste my time. There we go. So. Ta-da. Not the cleanest, but it'll do it. See? And then we're able to finally use some really heavy duty stuff that we had in the box. There we go. So 50 some years, or yeah, around 50 some years, because this is, I believe, around mid 70s when this came out. So yeah, these wheels have finally getting replaced. Anyways, we got the upper links done in the front. I already made those up, and honestly, I've tried to save these enough times because sometimes you can use them as links. So yeah. Now I gotta just do the drive shaft in the back, get that cleaned up and hooked up. The angles are gonna be okay, and now we just have. Also, I need to get some more nylock nuts because I am running out of them, and we're using the old Clodbuster chassis that was destroyed. But I don't remember where I got it from, but it had hardware I'm using. So yeah, that was the front. It wasn't fun getting like the pliers into where I needed them to, but we got one spot done for the front and lower link that I also made up, and already cut and notched the frame and got the shocks fitting pretty nice. So I'm gonna finish tightening this up, mark where the other link needs to go, and we're pretty much ready for steering servo mount, get the wheels fixed, and just the little details and stuff. Trucks turn out pretty quick. I've now tortured myself with like peeling apart like the way too much like super glue that was holding the tires to the junk rim, and that one's curing now. So that's one out of four. And yeah, just pain. So I distracted myself with doing Christmas presents, and I know my dad like watches the show. So yeah, I'm not saying what it is, but like it's a gift. There you go. Anyways, the Arma thing, it's the ESC that I tested. It's good. However, I'm torn between like tucking it up here and just having it something that you kind of see on the side. It would be kind of cool. But at the same time, it kind of keeps it tucked out of the way. I can drill 2 holes and actually bolt it down because it's got little like tabs to bolt it down and run it along the chassis out to the back motor with probably without having to lengthen the wires at all. And I can still run. What I'm wanting to do is basically just find like a Velcro strap if I can to just strap your battery down back here, and it'll rock and be pretty easy access. So where we're at currently. Also, with the front drive shaft hooked up, I can yeah, it's progress. Just the slow parts now. I am suffering with pulling, well, tires apart because someone used gobs of CA glue. But it's going to be a cool moment for me to show history. So within the first 2 or 3 years of Tonka making the dump truck, they had a slight difference with the wheel well opening. And we're going to, here we go, show it with this. So, look real close. See how the wheel well opening basically ends right at that point here? And the very first like generation of Tonka dump truck, like with our monster one we've got, is going to be like a little bit of a step here because their wheel was smaller and they hadn't actually come up with the normal Tonka wheel everyone remembers them for. Yeah, just a fun little fact. That's about it. So, yeah, mid early 60s Tonka. Ta-da! So it's a little dark in here still, but parts of that Clodbuster frame, I took the old servo mount and trimmed it down, drilled a bunch of holes to tie it to this axle, and then basically used some ECX Barrage like servo mounts to make this servo I got from the hobby shop. I need to see if it works or not, but it was a free, like, least worst case it's mock-up, but I'm pretty sure with the way it felt, it's a good digital waterproof Traxxas servo, and then just use some random hardware I got, and now we've got steering hooked up. So tried as much as I could to try and keep everything like tucked up high since these are already like high clearance knuckles, which is like way fancier than my first gen Redcat axles over there. Once again, don't know why the camera is so dark, but yeah, that's about it. All we got to do now is rear drive shaft and trim some fenders. Yes, we're back in, like, there's light out here. Anyways, got everything else done up with this truck. Might check on the rear drive shaft, even mounted in the winch that I found in the box of stuff. And I thought about it for a little bit. Basically, just like clip the rear half of the cab here, clip this a little bit forward, but kept the radius thing going on. And I thought about like welding on some flares like a military like Kaiser Jeep truck. But then I got thinking about it. I'm just gonna get this thing like more body work would be in the way of catching on the tires. So why not just kind of think about like how they like I could clip it. So pretty happy with how it turned out. Doesn't really sacrifice the front end shape. Doesn't really sacrifice too much of the wheel well. But compared to the other side, way more room now to flex and then like, hold on. Okay. Gotta adjust one thing on this truck, and it's the fact the shock body keeps getting bound. So there you go. So yeah, once I clip this side, it'll be ready to like send to the guy, and he's gonna have a good time with this. Well, it's the last clip. Working on real cars, working on a long-term project for ill friend, and finishing up a van for another friend. And yeah, van's on, or the Tonka's on top. I just got done welding the rear drive shaft because I forgot I need to actually like find the section I cut out of shortening it and then weld it in after I shortened the drive shaft more to get the spline so it actually did something instead of just spin inside the tube. So yeah, that's about all there is to it. This could be out here a lot tonight, but the truck turned out really cool. Yeah, so there's the drive shaft I worked on, so yeah, could have cleaned up a little more, I guess, but I kind of just figured it would get surface rust and blend in with the weathering, so yeah. I'd say that rolls pretty good considering the transmission I had to figure out too, so yeah, pretty cool truck. I think that's about all there is to cover on this thing now. Got the wheels to where they'll still look like clear really good. Yeah, okay, almost had issue there. So yeah, that's all there is really to it. This truck turned out awesome, and I don't really know what else to really showcase. Well, hopefully the pictures helped and the rest of the video helped in case you want to build your own, I suppose, because, like, it's cool. So, I'll see you guys next time.